Welcome to the Knife Junkie podcast, your weekly dose of knife news and information about knives and knife collecting. Here's your host, Bob the Knife Junkie DeMarco.
Welcome back to the Knife Junkie podcast. I'm Bob DeMarco. On this edition of the show, I'm speaking again with Rolando Garcia III and continuing our conversation about his study of the bladed martial arts, Bowie knives, Navajas, and all things knives and knife fighting. You know him as Rolando Estocada on YouTube and Instagram, where he shows off his collection and skills and features deep diving episodes on the origins, designs, and combative methodologies of the world's edged weapons. We'll catch up with Rolando for some more fascinating knife talk, but first be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and download the show to your favorite podcast app. Also, if you want to help support the show, you can share it. That goes a great distance, or you can scan the QR code on your screen and head on over to Patreon. Incidentally, if you sign up for a full year, you stand to have 12% taken off the price of admission. We've had a couple of recent members take advantage of that. So go on over to TheKnifeJunkie.com/Patreon and check it out. Again, that's TheKnifeJunkie.com/Patreon.
Want to sell your custom knives online? With LaunchCart, you can easily create your own e-commerce store. No coding required. LaunchCart is designed for knife makers like you, with built-in tools to showcase your craftsmanship, manage orders, and grow your brand. It's fast, flexible, and even includes low-cost payment processing to help you keep more of your profits. Start your online knife store today at TheKnifeJunkie.com/launch and turn your passion into a business.
Rolando, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure seeing you again, sir.
It's always a pleasure to see you, my brother.
Wait, before we get into the conversation, I want to say at Blade Show you had your cat. You were walking around with your cat, and he or she, sure,
yeah.
She looks so much like my gray cat that I was gonna try and wrangler her and show her off to you, but wrangling cats is not always the easiest thing.
No, it's a very tough job.
So just to remind people, if it's been a while since they've seen the last episode we spoke. Describe to people what the Escotada methodology is.
Yeah, so the system was something that I had ended up codifying and still very much in its evolution. When my two instructors, my first one is my father, and from whom I received a good portion of my martial arts training. A lot of it is in the Filipino martial arts, but he did expose me to Judo Newaza and some Wing Chun. He was also a Judo brown belt in the Philippines, but a good portion of my own training comes from his Filipino martial arts, specifically the Illustrisimo Dizon Filipino martial arts. And he's like one of those great instructors that not a lot of people know about. He's often mentioned in the same breath as Grandmaster Angel Cabales, who basically taught him, right? And also Calis Illustrisimo founder Antonio Tatang Illustrisimo, the great swordsman. So I got the Illustrisimo Dizon curriculum from him. Then I got my Jeet Kune Do and Filipino martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Savate, Bowie knife instruction, Navaja, all of these great things from my great instructor, senior full instructor Armando Basulto, who at one point was the East Coast regional director for Paul Vunak. So yeah, he's a Vunak guy. So from him, I got a lot of that. But there's a third piece to my Estocada system, which is the health and fitness piece, because I basically came up in the professional world, in health and fitness, starting as a trainer, but ultimately in executive leadership in some of the top brands in the world. So the Estocada system is really a merging of both the combative benefits elements of martial arts, but also the health and lifestyle optimization. I feature mostly the combative and martial aspects to it on YouTube because there's a lot of great interest there. But there is, as Gray Cook, who's the founder of Functional Movement Screen, once said, there's a reason why a lot of ancient Chinese masters focus so much on their weapons training, especially into their older age, because weapons training is a type of anti-aging. And as a middle-aged man, this is very important to me.
Yeah, here. I like the way you describe it. You definitely got a really solid foundation from your father early on, and then you went off and explored the world, literally,
Yes.
and figuratively, with martial arts from all around the world. And that's one of the reasons, besides your charming personality and your warm presence, that's one of the reasons I love talking with you, because you have a lot of knowledge behind the fighting methods behind Bowie knives, Navajas, these weapons I've been fascinated with my whole life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the kind words, my friend. I always enjoy talking to you.
Absolutely. So recently, I know this just from following you on Instagram and YouTube, you went on a pretty amazing Illustrisimo Kali
Yes.
venture. Tell me about that.
Yes. So I've always felt there was something always just super functional and super direct about the Illustrisimo system. I was I was exposed to it initially by my instructor Armando Basulto, but some of the primary concepts and some of the primary techniques. Then some of it later on with somebody who had studied with one of the main instructors of Illustrisimo, Mang Romy Macapagal, and I studied it a little bit with Roy Harris, the jiu-jitsu black belt, but he is actually first and foremost a bladesman. That's how he sees himself. Jeet Kune Do man, he was actually the vice president for progressive fighting systems under Paul Vunak. So that's how I got connected. It was through Armando, then Roy. But my first, real training in Illustrisimo was under Burton Richardson. I did maybe about 2, maybe 3. I don't remember anymore, but it was 15 years ago. And he really opened my eyes into not just the intricacy of the system, but just the directness of it. And he was the one who brought home that this isn't just a Filipino martial arts. This is a bladed art. And it took me a while to really absorb that. And I've been following Guru Arnold Narzo for the past 10 years on his YouTube channel. He is one of my favorite instructors in practically anything. He's a very, very thorough individual and really knows how to display it. And I've messaged him over the years, just briefly here and there. Hey, I'm in New York. Are you ever going to come ever, please? And if you do, and I believe this is his first New York stop. And I was so impressed, not only with Guru Arnold Narzo, but also the other Illustrisimo guru, Guru Vico Perrin, who you and I briefly ran into when we were standing at the Doug Marcaida booth.
Yes.
He was there.
Familiar, yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I got to talk to him. But he was in and out, and people were talking to him. But he assisted, and I was so impressed by it. In that one, the content was just so well organized. There was a sense of progression and regression. So they provided a wonderful learning experience. And this is something that's very rare in martial arts in terms of workshops, because sometimes they can be a little disorganized. It's more of an introduction to the system rather than here are the fundamental skill sets that you need in order to then progress you into the intermediate and advanced. And I got I would say it was 3 hours, but I got this wonderful broad picture of it. And it was in addition to some of the knowledge that I'd received from Armando, Roy Harris, and also Burton Richardson.
Yeah, I remember Burt Richardson, his modern martial arts regular column, Burt Offerings.
Yes.
And then his videos on the beach. Man, I was like, this guy's living the life. How would you define Illustrisimo, to someone who might have a glancing knowledge of Filipino martial arts?
Yes, I would say that number one, it is a Filipino martial arts. It is strictly Filipino martial art. Number two, unlike most Filipino martial arts, it is unapologetically a bladed martial art. So the first thing they introduce you to is a Filipino blade. And I'm going to, since I have it handy here, I'm going to use as a very good example. This guy has seen so much video in the past few months. This wonderful Adam Boyce designed tops ginunting, the X16 ginunting. And one thing that I did point out in some of my, probably my first, I think it was my first episode on my YouTube channel, and it was wonderfully illustrated by Guru Arnold in the workshop, is that a bladed system like the Illustrisimo system is differentiated from other Filipino martial arts because of the handle ergonomics of the sword. I'm going to quote I'll paraphrase Guru Arnold here in that, and I made similar observations, but I'm going to take it primarily from the workshop. He talked about how the stick has a circular handle, right? And when you have a circular handle, the wrist can have a lot of play. So you can do strikes like the redondo, where it circles like this. So you can hit with the back of the blade, and you can even hit with the side of the blade. But it's because it's a rounded stick. For as long as it has some sort of impact, it's okay. But if you're taking a look at a blade, there's a greater consideration for its makeup and design, because there are parts of it that are really sharp, parts of it that are not, parts of it that are a little stronger because it's a little wider and maybe even a little thicker, and parts of it that's going to be a little thinner. So you're not just going to block and not think about where it's going to land,
Mhm.
because your sword can break. But the third part of it that I love that he highlighted, because of that, edge alignment is so critical in Illustrisimo, that their entire posture and where the hand aligns with the shoulder is out of respect for the fact that the edge of the sword is pointing in a very specific way. And as a result of it, I'm of the mind that their postures and biomechanics and their motor control is negotiating around that specific piece of the sword. This is not something that you see with stick based martial arts. And as a result of it, when you look at an Illustrissimo person, they move always with the edge forward, versus a stick oriented person may take a sword like this and they start doing more stick based, like redondo, witticks. They start to twirl. And Guru Arnold actually addressed this. He said, you know who a stick based Filipino martial artist is. You give them a sword, they start twirling it. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's actually true,
Yeah.
because that's the first thing you see. So because those are the, to me, to me, those are the main features of it. They have a lot of emphasis with the espada y daga, also with the knife as well. This is a very wonderful example of what a good daga is. This is a Calvin Richardson designed, work tough, steadfast L, the large. This, if you have something like this, it's beautiful, and you have it with an X16. This is a beautiful combo. This one I'm going to do a review of very soon. But Illustrisimo, they have a wonderful template. I'm going to say template, not style, but they have wonderful templates, so that whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, there's a way for you to progress or regress your skill set depending on your level of comfort and your level of proficiency. I love this system very much. It is also very different from the Kabbalah's system, but also very different from the Dizon system. Very different principles, but just something I really adore and I really enjoy learning. And I hope to continue to train in this system for the rest of my life.
So something that always was on top of mind for me when doing more stick work in the Kali I did, which is Illustrissimo, or I should say um, uh, Guru Dan Inosanto Lacoste.
Inosanto Lacoste, yes.
Was whenever I was doing something stick, I was trying to remain conscious of where that edge would be, because for me, the stick was always a proxy for the blade. Because
Yeah.
I always have blades on the mind, and it always did kind of occur to me. I guess you could do a wittick, for instance, but you'd be slapping someone with the side of the blade, and is that efficient? Is that worth your energy when you're fighting someone with a sword? Probably not, unless you
Probably
way
not.
outclass.
Yeah, probably not.
So you mentioned a template versus a style.
Yeah. So it's I love the question, because I think that most styles are really a collection of techniques, right? This is there's offense and then there's defense. This is the basic offense. This is the basic defense. Then we show you intermediate. Then it show you a little bit more advanced. So a system really tends to be a collection of knowledge, or a collection of techniques. And the reason why Bruce Lee was very anti-style is that what tends to happen with a system being a collection of techniques is that there's a lot of lost context in it, meaning it's combative application. And if there is a combative application, it's usually against someone of a similar style, right? You're really only fighting like judo, which I love. Really, they only tend to train against other judo people,
Right.
right? And there's this throw, and then there's that throw, and then before you know it, once the problem with the system is that people who are in the system, they have preferences. Well, I like this technique, and I like chaining this technique with that technique. And I'm going to reference Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If before you know it, oh, I'm going to build a game around my triangle, which becomes an omoplata, which becomes a back take, right? Or you'll have guys who are like, okay, I'm going to be a little more, I'm going to fake the pulling guard, then take the ankle, and then get on top, right? But then it becomes a matter of you just taking your favorite techniques, and then you say, well, I don't care for the rest of it. The rest of it is garbage. So now you have people out there with black belts and instructorships who are passing on incomplete knowledge. So it's not a knowledge transmission. A template is when all of these techniques are contextualized. So a good example of this, and this is what I loved about how it was taught in Illustrisimo, it reminded me of Shinkage-ryu 2-man set. And whenever you're doing a 2-man set in Shinkage-ryu, when I was training in it, I thought my brain was exploding every time I went to class, because I would be stopped and sensei or one of my senpai would say, this little detail here, move your hand here. And I'd say, why? Why is my hand there? Let me demonstrate. Before you know it, there's a difference between getting the sword slapped out of my hand versus me getting thrown, right? So when you have a template, you have context. And then once you have that context, sensei or senpai can walk in and kind of go, let me show you this. Let me show you this, man. And then before you know, whoa. So now there's a context so that the variations can be inserted, right? Versus technique 1, technique 2, technique 3, and then repeat. Illustrisimo was like this. I loved how they progress. This is retirada. This is the footwork. This is the redonda. Now we're going to put these together, and this is how the guy's going to attack. And then this is how the guy's going to attack. Now I'm going to do it this way. And before you knew it, they were progressing you through not just the combative application, but the knowledge itself. You were experiencing the knowledge. It was so well executed because it wasn't just pattern recognition. It wasn't like just memorizing a multiplication table. It's them actually putting me through a learning experience, or like an LMS, like a learning management system. They answered all of our questions. I'm going to have this. I'm going to put this little asterisk. Since they're Filipino and I'm Filipino, I'd say 70% of the attendees were Filipino. So every now and then I'll say something in Tagalog. Sir, anong ibig sabihin ng planchada? Which means, what does the technique planchada mean? And then everybody, all the other Filipinos will go, oh, he speaks Tagalog. And Filipinos when we hear our mother tongue, it's like music to us. So we all kind of, we drop everything when we hear it. And it was kind of like that. And they would answer, like they have these beautiful smiles. And they would just go, oh, planchada, this is what it means. And we'd all kind of go, oh, yeah, I get it now. So it was very enjoyable. I highly recommend it. I can't wait for them to do this US circuit again.
Okay, we're going to talk about the knives. You've teased a few of them, but before we get to that, I know that you've been really looking deeply, and this is something I was mentioning up front. You don't just show off knives. You really make studies of them, and you create actual episodes, not just short videos. And I really appreciate that. You've been really investigating or going down the Tomahawk rabbit hole lately.
Yes.
How similar are the thought processes between fighting with a knife, for instance, or a short sword, and fighting with a tomahawk?
So the first thing to consider with the tomahawk is basically a Filipino martial arts stick and this is, I'm going to show you the RMJ Shrike, right?
I love that.
So yeah, this is so beautifully done. It is so light, but it's like a stick, like you're holding a stick. There's some narrowing to it, and it was intentionally done because they want it so that if you're fighting this way, you're doing your angles, and I don't know, you're surrounded by enemy combatants, and you're just fighting off everybody. Even if it spins in your hand, you won't feel a difference between hitting with the spike versus hitting with the tomahawk and also with the beard. So it's so wonderfully done by Ryan Johnson. This is a wonderful gift. But it handles a lot like a stick. But, and I mentioned this in one of my episodes, the fundamental advantage of a tomahawk, like the RMJ, right? And also the other one that is truly top tier.
Yeah.
You're looking at the Winkler R&D, designed by Master Smith Daniel Winkler, and also Tuhan Rafael Kayanan of SIOC Tactical Group. Is that you see how this one is multi-sectioned?
Yeah.
Right? Versus this one, which is straight. The fundamental advantage of a tomahawk versus, let's say, let me take out one of my wonderful knives here. Okay. And this was cool because this is the Jeff Schaefer chopper Bowie. It's really hard to say Schaefer chopper. I end up butchering it, like Schaefer chopper, you know. And his episode is on today. His Forge and Fire episode.
Oh,
Yeah, it's tonight. Yeah, so he's such a cool guy, and he's the knife maker for Master at Arms James Keating.
oh yeah.
Yes. So I'm really dealing with a heavyweight here, right? So you have this wonderful Bowie, and when I spoke to him about it, I said, "Hey, this is wonderful, but it handles a little bit like a barong." He goes, "Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to build a barong, but I don't think that was his intention. But I think a little bit of the barong came out of this." But if you compare it to a tomahawk, you see how much bigger this chopper is. Look at that.
Yeah.
That is so intimidating. But the fundamental difference is this has a multi-section grip. So I can go from long, middle, and then short range. I cannot do that with the Bowie knife because the handle is fixed. So once I handle a knife, this is it. I'm stuck here. Unless I'm super ambidextrous under pressure in a high threshold environment, I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not going to bet on it.
Yeah.
If I need to let go and I need to multi-section, why is multi-sectioning important? Because a fight is dynamic, it's very fluid. Before you know it, it's one person, two person, three person. And sometimes, and we know this in the Philippines, we have a term called agawan. They fight for it. Right. And what tends to happen is that now you have to kind of hand it off. And Felicissimo Dizon's system of Mohara is about if I get injured on this hand, I got to hand it off. But I got to hand it off in a way where if I grab anywhere, I'm not going to end up mistakenly doing something stupid like this.
Yeah.
Right. So the fundamental advantage of the tomahawk is where I land. If I have to do this, I can hand it off, but it also changes the range. The thing I particularly love, and I think it was intentional on the part of Tuhan Raf Kayanan, is that this curve right here lands exactly right where my hand is. And this part of it, the spike, does not bite into my flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've started to do, which is to integrate it with the Mohara curriculum of Kabilaan, and Tagalog, Kabilaan means to switch. Sometimes you get into this kind of fight, but then you hand it off here, and now it's a bit of a karambit. It's like a karambit here. Yeah, so you're here, fight, you're getting into a fight. I love this part of it because this rounds off, and it fits right under the mandible. Why is that important? Because since it's rounded, if I try to come off of it because I'm applying forward pressure, if I keep following him by rounding it, it's hard to come off. I've tried it on several people, and I've had them do it to me. All they have to do is this, and this. It's hard once that forward pressure is applied. This is different with a straight tomahawk because there's a way to just come off of it because the angle is incorrect. But if I apply forward pressure, angle, get in close, forward pressure, or I can come down here, forward pressure, right? But if I go 1, 2, I'm going in, and then forward pressure, switch it off to here, I go low, right? I go low down here while I control with half plumb up here. Now I can secure. Now I have the person. But this was designed for the military personnel. So it's not like I have to hold the person in the street because I'm carrying a Winkler R&D on me. But it just so happens that if you have to go, switch to your sidearm, go, go, go. You just fell into that situation. Go, go, go. Boom, sidearm to it. Now you're in this position. Now you can use this to strip. This isn't like some sort of official curriculum. If it is, I didn't receive it that way. This is just me integrating what I know of the Felicissimo Dizon Mohara template and applying it to a tomahawk. That's why I love the tomahawk. I've been exposed to other systems as well. There is a lot of hand switching, but the R&D is a very, very good way of integrating it. And the other one I want to show you, because I'm really getting into it, Andreas Tirsius, he created, this one is a prototype. My most recent episode is of this one. Yeah, this is the TRC Viking axe.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
It's so cool.
But what's crazy is that normally Viking axes, this is mentioned in De Cuerdas a little bit, where there's like a clock system. So you have noon, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock. But this was also highlighted in the Illustrisimo system when Guru Arnold taught it, like, noon, 11, 10, all the way down to here. In the Illustrisimo system, they have a type of strike called aldabis. And aldabis is when the sword goes past that horizontal, and now it's down here like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And now you're coming on the groin, the femoral, the knee. It's like all the way inside, right? And what tends to happen with heavier swords, like the one I was just using, that plays into the Illustrisimo system. This beautiful Viking tomahawk, because of that extra beard, does not have that. Meaning, typically a Viking axe is a little heavier. So when I do this, it's going to keep falling towards that 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock angle. Andreas did something. It's not completely full tang, but he did it so that if I go here, it stops neutral, right parallel to the horizon. And this is an important detail because now I can use some of the barong template, because the barong template tends to come in here and then I fulcrum across, or I come in here and I fulcrum across. The thing I love about this is that he made that it's the balance of it in such a way where even if I hold it here, there's a substantial different distance between the spike and my flesh. So I'm never worried about this, like me poking myself accidentally, because he balanced it so well. So having this Viking axe, slightly curved handle, RMJ Shrike with a very straight handle. And then when you have the fantastically multi-segmented but angled R&D Winkler, to me is that spectrum of the type of tomahawk methodologies that are available to us. And that's where my studies are taking me right now as it relates to the tomahawk.
And do you have a preference?
I don't yet. And it's because I've studied Musashi for so long, and his main admonition is never have a favorite weapon.
Right.
Never,
Right.
never. And his logic, and it's so practical, is that you can be jumped at any time. And if you're jumped and your mind goes to your favorite, but you left your favorite at the house or in the car, or you loaned it to your best friend, but your not so favorite, but very handy, brand new tomahawk from Andreas Tirsius is there, you're going to hesitate. And when you hesitate, that's when they get to jump on you. I read that somewhere recently. I think it was Detuars, the Silat master. He said that the idea of Silat is never let the other guy build his momentum, because when he attacks, there's going to be a second and a third. And if you're still looking for your favorite, he might be on the 5th attack, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want that. So always be ready with what happens to be around you.
Yeah, and don't regret not bringing the huge Navaja. You might just have
I know, and I happen to have the Navaja here, and it's the more modern one. So this one is the Espada XL, which is a very great approximation of the traditional Navaja in terms of its size. But a big part of my study around this is, again, handle ergonomics. It's, I believe, one of the few, if not the only, knife designed where a big part of it is this wonderful tail. And this tail here I've explored it, and there's a lot of it that has to do with, okay, you can two-hand it, okay, that's fine. If you need that extra reach, that's fine. Being able to swing across, that's fine. But a big part of my exploration now is, well, I only recently remembered, because I used to run a big school, a Jeet Kune Do school, and I didn't realize so many of my students were like in special forces. So every now and then I'll get a message, and we got to talking about, well, what are you carrying? And we got to talking about, well, what's favored, what's not. We talk a little bit about the sock P, what's available to them, and I am working a little bit with Dirk Pinkerton around the culprit, right? Because you introduced me to him, right? And the culprit really stood out. Because if you take a look at the handle here, right, you see that little thing going on here, this little bend, that comes from the Navaja, right? You have this. Why is that important? It's important because there's something about, when you draw, there's something about this little portion that kind of helps with that draw. And I'm kind of exploring that right now. It seems to be a thing that's designers are working with, like the Civivi Modern Hunter. I saw Melissa Backwoods feature it recently on her Instagram, and I was like, hey, look at that. Look at the tail. Yeah. What's going on there, right?
Or the A series.
Yeah. So take a look at that, right? That same thing, that kind of hook. Yeah. So I'm exploring what that design means in terms of the draw, in terms of the retention. But there's something else going on with the Navaja in terms of just how there's a bit of a curve. There's a bit of a curve downwards, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Bontoc, it used to be called the Bontoc. I think Raf Kayanan designed it originally for Dan Winkler, where that curve comes down. And that's critical because not only does it allow for a better draw, it's better alignment with the bones for the thrust. So I'm doing a lot of exploration and a lot of conversation with Dirk Pinkerton in terms of, well, if we were to do something, what would that look like? But I think it's going to come down to something like the Navaja structure. It's going to be we're going to be working off of the culprit, but also what the Navaja structure is. But at any rate, the point of all this is, yes, I'm very deep into study nowadays. Tomahawk, Bowie knife, Navaja, Illustrisimo, as you can see.
Well, it warms the cockles of my heart that you're working with Dirk Pinkerton, who's, to me, he's an incredible maker and designer, but the two of you together, it sounds like a match made in heaven. Something I love about the Navaja is this. I have an old one right here.
Which one is that one? Is that a Joker or?
I think no. This is it's something my brother got me. It's Albania.
Yeah.
But I like, not so much on this because it's so large, but on the large size Espada, I like that you can put you have this sort of sub hilt thing, and it goes into your palm in such a way that on a thrust, it connects with your arm.
Yes.
I don't know how else to put it, but you can really back up a thrust with the structure of your forearm.
Yeah. It's there's a lot going on with the Navaja, and it's a very unique knife methodology.
Yeah. Last time you were on, you explained a little bit of the cloak and dagger aspect.
Yeah.
Do you think that translates to modern day knife combatives?
It really does, and it's one of the definitive features of the Estocada system, in that there's a very great study in what I call lead shoulder dynamics. Because if, let's say, which knife am I going to work with here? You know what? Let's work with this one. The one that we've been talking about quite a bit. We're looking at the Bobby Rains Firechild, and he calls it the Firechild because it's an homage to the Hell's Bell. And you have really what defines weaponry as it relates to position, right? Position and posture. In my system, we have an acronym called DAPAT, DAPPAT. And dapat in Tagalog means must. So these are the 6 musts. Okay. So there's a distance, angle, posture, position, attribute, and timing. So when we're talking about your position and your posture, we're talking about several things, but one of the key features is lead shoulder dynamics, meaning you only have really three of them. You have the weapon forward, you have the weapon square, you have the shoulder squared, or the weapon in the back. And now whatever happens to be in this hand, now you're looking at very, very different dynamics, right? So when we're talking about how cloak and dagger comes into play, what we're really talking about is, well, which shoulder is doing the leading, right? Why is cloak and dagger something still so prevalent? I think you might have heard this. And if I'm not mistaken, it could be from the jailhouse. I forgot the
Oh,
six,
Piper or
not Piper. Like, is it 52
Medusa?
blocks?
Okay.
The
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one. I forget how many blocks there are, but I think it's 52. I think I could be wrong, but they have something called sewing machine, and sewing machine is the weapon is in the back, this is in the front, and this goes up and down and up and down, and that's with what's called rear shoulder dynamics, meaning the weapon is in the back. This stood out to me. It is 52 blocks. And what stood out to me was when Guru Arnold was talking about this in the workshop, not the 52 blocks itself. He said, in the Philippines, he said, if they're going to kill you with a sword, they're not going to come at you like it's a Filipino stick with it forward. When he demonstrated it, the sword was in the back like this, and they're just marching towards you like this, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. So the concept of cloak and dagger is really about the weapon is in the back. And what that does is that the lead shoulder actually either draws an attack, right? Draws them in so that they're out of position, or pulls them into a different kind of range. It's also part of one of the forms in Shin Kaguryu. I think it's the Ito Ryodan 2-man set, where the sword is here and then they lead with the shoulder, when it's really like, hey, come here and come get me. And then, wow, they do something fantastic with the sword. So the cloak and dagger concept is less about the cloak, but how the weapon hand is in the back. And now you have this whole other template to work with.
So essentially the cloak is a shield, yeah,
Mhm.
or a way to protect the arm, but it's also a way to hide the knife.
Yeah. To hide. And the one that every now and then I play with, I think I saw Bobby do this a couple of times, where you'll do a back cut, snap cut, back cut, snap cut. And then this is in Savate. This is called décalage, where you turn your body like completely 90 degrees to the guy. So back cut, see the right shoulder here, back cut, thrust, snap cut, whichever. But then there's a movement I do sometimes, in sparring, where I do décalage, which is from Savate. Now my shoulder's leading this way, and the Bowie knife is tucked over here. Now you're not sure. Is it going to thrust up? Is it going to reverso? Or is it going to back cut? Or worse yet, as I hear, now I switch it off to the left.
Yeah.
These are explorations. And these are things I've seen in sparring, and I'll share this story with you. I believe the term for it in the Navaja is called the pasada soto. And pasata soto is when fighting, not only do you switch hands, you change levels. So you pretend to trip. You're like, oh, I'm going to trip. And then you go, you stab him this way. And I'm not going to say which tournament this was, but this Navaja methodology worked so well that every guy that we threw into the knife tournament, they all took first place.
Really?
But it was specific. I remember it was specific. It was all Navaja. It was nobody held it like nobody did ice pick. It was like we would do some of the revés, some of the pasata soto. But I didn't train that team. That was my instructor who trained that team. But it was specific. It was and there were pictures like they're like this, right? It was really cool. But that goes to show that this idea of lead shoulder dynamics, when you're thinking weapons, it's not always with the weapon in front of you. Sometimes that lead shoulder We'll square up. This is a little more Filipino martial arts. I'm actually doing an Illustrisimo posture here. This is a Mohara posture. It's a slight variation here. This is where the hands are equal to each other for a closed position and the edges in front. The Mohara system, Dizon system, this goes to the back, it's a little lower, and the hand is lower. So now it's a bait, because now you don't know if as you come in, right shoulder, I cut across, or as you come in, I cut across, but then I switch to the left, right? It's a very, very different, unique system, but it's always a play on, am I weapon forward shoulder, weapon shoulder forward, square shouldered, so I can do some empty hand, some checking hand, live hand, or is it the weapon in the back? And I've found that this position tends to be, at least to my knowledge, very prevalent in the Navaja, but I have recently seen it in Shinkaga-ryu, but also recently at the Illustrisimo workshop.
And the prison fighting. So
52 blocks, yes.
So it's 52 blocks. So it's kind of a deceptive way of going about it, because it's, pardon me, harder to detect what's happening back here than up here.
It is.
Or forward.
It is, and it's such a unique study, because now your biomechanics, it gets confused. Like, well, what's my footwork now, and which hand do I go with? For a moment, when I do it, for a moment, my brain just kind of says reset. Right? It's like, for a second, like you're watching TV, and then the TV kind of goes off for a second, and you kind of wake up. Oh, I'm here now. Right? It's the brain doesn't necessarily process it as easily, right? To go from here, I'm doing my thing, and then boom, to go from here, it's now you're like in a completely different template, not style, but you're in a different template.
All right, so you had out the fire you showed us the Schaefer chopper. And you also have one called the Osprey, I think.
Yeah.
I want to see that in a second, but just take us through the design of this fire child. And is this a collaboration with you and Bobby Raines?
No, this is out of his brain. As much as I'd love to say, yeah, I collaborated on that. Sure, I gave him my 2 cents. Now he debuted this at the Blade Show, and he pretty much showed me how he thought, and I'm glad, because he'd been watching my videos, been a big fan of Bagwell's, and he came to Blade Show, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to see this. It's the Fire Child." I was like, whoa, and I posted it on my social media, my face. Wow. But he kind of pulled me aside and said, there's something else going on here. I said, well, what's going on? And it's the handle. And what he had done, if you take a look at it, one, the handle curves a certain way. So now that curve fills my hand. So this is a man who is very much not just into the edge design, which is so beautiful. You have this slide convexing here, V-taper here. But the thing that gets me, and look at that Spanish notch. Look how beautifully he aligned this here, so that if a knife happens to get caught, that's it. It gets wrenched, right?
Yeah.
But what he did, and this is where his ingenuity is, and that's why I just enjoy his work so much, is that this handling here, he did something special. Notice that there's like two butts to this handle. There's the front, and then there's a back. What this does, it's so subtle. This one back here lands on this part of my hand, so when I do my thrust, it's supported right about here. When I snap cut, and I snap cut forward, it slides up on my hand, and then it comes back, but it stops on the fleshy part. So he designed it that way. The front part is the real kicker. He showed this to me at Blade Show. He said, when you do a back cut, go to what we call the back cut shelf, because it's wide and then it narrows. So when I'm about to back cut, my hand slides up here. That means that instead of gripping from my pinky, it now goes to my index finger and thumb. And that's the bicep line, the pulling. So now when I back cut, I go from extension. When I'm here, now I'm pulling, which is the exact mechanism for a back cut. But then he said, let go of your pinky. And you see that front butt over here. Now pull on this. It goes straight into a snap cut, just with the pull of the pinky. So it's like, boom, you eat it. And when he sent this to me, The first 5 minutes, after 5 minutes of flowing with it, I had to put it down because my motor control, my nervous system was just enjoying that dynamic in the hands so much. It was moving, in my opinion, too fast. It was moving too fast. I messaged him and I said, the hair on my legs and my neck, they're all standing because I didn't expect, one, that level of speed, but also number two, that level of ergonomic support. So if I need to back cut, it just goes, it just naturally falls here and it fires the bicep line, wham, like this. So it's a pulling mechanism. But when I'm about to snap cut, it lands on the mechanoreceptors, boom, and now it fires the tricep line. And that bicep tricep dynamic made my nervous system so happy. It's like, dude, like what is this? This is almost like extra customized for you. I had to put it down. I thought this is, and I messaged him, my body's covered in goose pimples because I'm not used to this kind of detail.
So do you think, I don't know if you can answer this, but do you think that if he were to make, multiples of that, which hopefully he is, that hopefully this is a new model, is it reliant on the deer horn or the deer antler, or would he be making this also out of wood, but making the shape of the, because it seems like a stroke of luck, or not that it was luck, but he saw the right piece of antler and it's like, oh, this is perfect for this use. Is this something that he would replicate in wood or whatever?
We're talking about replicating it because this is technically the second one he made.
Oh, okay.
This is the second Firechild. And because the first time he let me handle the one he made, the first prototype, I couldn't get it out of my head after the Blade Show. I was messaging, I was like, dude, I can't get this thing out of my head because of how intelligently it allowed me to access the Bagwell Keating back cut template. Again, there's that word template, right? It allowed me to do it so easily and with such proficiency. I know he can scale it. I don't know if it's something that he plans to do in wood.
So, okay, this is going to sound strange, but it's a question that just popped into my head. If you had to duel, heaven forbid, you had to duel with a knife, what would it be with?
All day.
That one.
All day. And I know because I paid for it heavily back in the days when I was just an up-and-coming Jeet Kune Do practitioner. And we sparred. There was a lot of sparring with the Navaja, sparring with the Bowie wins hands down. And I'll tell you why. Because Bill Bagwell said it to me very well. He said, look, this was when he was coaching me over the phone. I don't know why he picked me, but he just said that I'm always nervous about teaching this because it takes 30 minutes to teach anybody this, right? It's the whole thing. I can back cut, snap cut, thrust, reverso, a little bit of footwork, a little bit of biomechanics, and that's it. So the ease of disseminating the knowledge transmission is easy. But the second one, and this is something I experienced, it doesn't matter where you're some sort of super advanced Savate guy or super advanced fencer or super advanced jiu-jitsu guy, or you're just brand new to martial arts. You put something like this in someone's hands and you teach them that template, they're devastating. And I was on the receiving end of like maybe a couple of those sparring sessions where my instructor Armando kind of whispered in it, do this instead. And it was a technique from Dwight McLemore's curriculum, the hanging guard. And for those who don't know, the hanging guard is when it's kind of like Mountain Man, right? Where the false edge is this way, but instead you hold it this way, like way above the head like this. And I looked at him and he was, I believe he was U.S. Army Rangers. It's a really, really great guy. And Mike Holzback, that was his name. And he held it like this. And everyone knew the Bowie was my thing. And I was just, what is this? Oh my God, he nailed me with that over and over again. I was like, bro, how long have you been here? A couple of months. But that's the thing about the Bowie is that if you have a certain template and you have a certain Bowie, even if you're a beginner, you have access to it versus a Bali song. Okay, a Bali song, it's not the easiest access. right? Or a ginunting sword, not the easiest access. You might use it like a frying pan because
Yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
you know, right? But a Bowie knife, strangely enough, hey, here, a couple of back cuts. Here's a snap cut, and stay away from his knife, and you're good. It would be a Bowie knife all day.
Okay, before we get to the osprey, tell us how this works. Like, what's the attack from up
Oh,
here?
so here's what's nuts, right? I still remember it because I was like, I'm gonna lean back here a little bit so you can see. So, pretty standard. You hold it in front, edge forward. Some people like to keep it low, but the idea behind the hanging guard is that you hold it way up here, right? And then the live hand is way out to the side here, this way. So you're fighting a guy like this, and he's pointing the Bowie knife right at you. This is interesting because this is a position also from French Lacan, can de combat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I won't get into it, but the term for it is the croisette. So you do something like this, and you bend your back, and then you can reach maybe an extra 2 feet. But from over here, it looks like you can't reach. So he's primed for this kind of can de combat, hanging guard position. And the idea behind it is that I invite. This is open. I'm like, yeah, come at me, bro. I got you. You can even back at me to my head. Anything that comes between this hand and this hand, as he falls in, all I have to do is drop. And anything that comes this way, this drops. So it's coming in. But then anything that comes through, I swipe across. And it's this type of gunting movement.
Yeah.
So the movement is fake, come out here, and then wham, and you just take everything. And then if you happen to miss that, you go to a snap cut, then you go right back to this hanging guard. I ate that all day. All day from Mike Holzback, and I was just, you freaking guy, you. But then, of course, later on, he showed me, and then Armando showed me. It's like, no, it's this. This is how you set it up. I was like, you guys, you did this without me. How dare you? But but it's part of the learning process.
Especially when you're not familiar with it at first, and it looks goofy to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is
Yeah.
that, right? But it's in Macklemore's book, like the hanging guard. He goes, oh, you should review your notes. Yeah.
I gotta check him out, Macklemore, and not the musician.
Yeah.
What's the osprey, Bowie?
Oh boy, Christopher Linton. So you have it, right? So first and foremost, this is a big part of what my Bowie studies are right now, right? So you have the standard one, and this is your standard Bowie model, which is in line with the Bagwell Keating template, back cut, snap cuts, right? Very European in terms of its mechanics, and very much lead shoulder. So the weapon is in the lead, right? Then, when I had my conversations with Jeff Schaefer about the chopper Bowie and how some of it lends itself to the barong, so this is more of a Bowie barong. So, it's not just Bowie snap cut, back cut, snap cut. In fact, if I back cut, it turns all the way in because of its balance. I back cut, you see how it comes all the way in?
Yeah.
Whereas most Bowie knives, if I back cut here, it snap cuts forward. This one comes all the way in, so it allows me to do these types of fulcrums, right? It allows me to do these kinds of movements. That's from the barong. So then my good buddy Ryan Burkhart at RMJ, he loves to send me items, and every now and then I just kind of want you to check this out. Let me know what you think. I kind of want to see how your mind works. So Christopher Linton at Osprey. So you had the classic Bowie, the Bowie barong. Well, Bowie barong kukri.
Ooh.
This is intentional. And I'm doing an episode on this. I sent him my Q&A, and he answered it. There's a lot of intentionality. And just as a little side note, I tend to feature makers on my channel who have hyper intentionality basically in each aspect of the knife. It's not just something that's sharp and pointy, and if you throw it at a car, the car explodes, something like that. There's something around the understanding of the art. A good example of this is Damon Lusky. That guy is a jiu-jitsu black belt, but also studied de cuerdas under Mike Janich, Martial Blade Concepts. Chris Linton, walked me through basically every inch of this in the Q&A I sent him. So now you're not just looking at a Bowie back cut with a barong. Now you have kukri, and now that's very different. You're looking at different mechanics, different stances that you will not see if I tried to do it with a dedicated Bagwell Keating Bowie. It won't apply because it's the balance points are different, the mass is different. There is a recurve. So now this is something that I'm studying, but it makes me ask this question, which is when you're talking about large knives or medium swords or short swords, what templates are available to us that we can integrate, so we're not just treating any knife as a knife or any sword as a sword, so that when we pick something up, we know, oh, I know what to do with this. I know what template to use with this, and I know what mechanics to do with this. And that's what I love about this. It challenges me to look at how I can integrate this into the templates I know.
Man, that just looks utterly wicked with that recurve.
Look at that fuller. It just makes it so crazy light, right? There's a beautiful aesthetic to it. This is no, it's not sharpened. I thought it would be, but this beautiful fuller, which makes it lighter. You see that hooking again here, right?
That's a beautiful handle there.
And you see how it has a kind of, I call it the double butt, where there's a butt in the back, a butt in the front.
Yeah.
So you can change so that the hand can go here, and the pinky can go here. So you have all of these dynamics in play. It's something that I'm still very much exploring. And by the way, it came in this. You ready for this? Look at the sheath.
Ooh,
I know.
Nice.
I know. This isn't just any old sheath. I mean, and look how beautifully it just matches up. It's a true work. Look how discreet that is, right? How beautiful. And I'm of the mind that if you receive something this beautiful, your training and the thought that you put into it has to match the training and thought that they put into the making of it. The best swords makers, at least the ones from what I understand, the ones from Japan, when they were making it, they were thinking about the samurai, like the one they were building it for.
Right.
And the samurai's job is to live up to that level of craftsmanship, so that they earn the right to hold it. And I treat all of these wonderful knives that way, and swords that way.
So what do you have coming up? I know you're working on an episode for that, but what are the knives that you're hoping, I don't know, that you're hoping to explore in the next in the offing?
You know what? One thing that I've really been looking at, and I had a good conversation with Ed Calderon about this, is that what are you going to do if you have something like this?
Yeah.
Right? These smaller ones. The one I'm kind of obsessed with, and I did an episode, the one with the safe maker, but it featured Bruce Lee walking around with this spike. That was his push dagger. Zach Wingard.
Oh yeah.
Without any, I don't think he had any realization that Bruce Lee carried this, but ended up making something. This is the Wingard Dick Pick. I'm not crazy about the name. I've told him, hey, I'm not crazy about the name, all right? Right? Look at that. See?
Yeah, I love this thing.
This thing is marvelous because it's so utilitarian, right? I saw Scott Baldwin do a short recently, where he took it. I was like, he was breaking up some ice with it. I was like, look at that. But I'm going to give you a little sneak preview. So what if you hold it like this? This one is Captain Obvious, right? But if you take a look at how Bruce Lee would have used the Bill G with the eye jab, right?
Yeah.
So now this is his eye jab. But then there's something else to think about, which is thumbing.
That's my favorite way to hold this.
Yeah, this is like, yeah. Why is this one your favorite?
Because I like the
puño aspect, right?
Yeah, exactly. The reverse grip style here, but then you have this front portion is very sharp, and
yeah, it is.
Punch with it, but also reverse back fist with it.
Yeah, and you know how common thumbing is in boxing, right?
Oh,
so it's very common. So you just do one of these jabs. So you have an extended thumb, basically, but here you have an extended finger. Yeah, it is, right? It's
These things are just utterly wicked.
yeah. This is Tomas Alas and I, Tactical Tavern. We were joking about this at one point, and I said, Bruce Lee carried this, right? He goes, no, I didn't know. And we were talking about it, and then I did my Bruce Lee impersonation. I said, see, I take this finger and I put it in your eye.
Good, man. That's good.
And so every now and then we'll text each other, and he'll go, I put this finger in your eye.
Well, that's the best impression I think I've ever heard of Bruce Lee.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Tomas, Rolando, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
As we wrap, I also recommend the Back Ripper.
Oh, I love that.
Tomahawk.
Oh my God, I love that one. I love that one.
And he carries it around in his pants all the time. I'm not quite there, but it's always handy at my desk just in case anyone comes in who needs to be vanquished.
I love that. I did an episode. I forgot. It wasn't the back scratcher. It was a different one. But that curve, that back spike, it's what it does is that when you do this cut over here, right? It's like a reverse payong. But what happens is that if you do this, right, the edge will miss. But then if you bring your wrist up a little bit, you bring it up a little bit, this back hook, it curves down. It catches the guy. It's wild. And
it is wild.
His tools are really cool, but that one I like to use the biomechanics from Zulu stick fighting. I think his stuff lends itself well to the Zulu stick fighting methodology, and that one specifically.
Zulu, what don't you? Okay, we're gonna have to get into that another time. Zulu.
Yeah, another time.
Hey man, thank you so much, Rolando. I appreciate you coming back on.
Oh, my pleasure.
You'll be back. You'll be back. This is an everlasting conversation, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, same. I think so, because you're a martial artist. You can tell that. Take a look at the your back wall, all your swords there, and how martial artists are. You and I could just keep talking about this. This is just what we love, and
it is indeed.
Yeah. And I always thank you. I'm always grateful to you for bringing me on. I always enjoy it.
It's my pleasure. And for those of you who are patrons, we're going to continue this conversation in another 10 minutes. So definitely stick around. Rolando, thanks again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Do you use terms like handle to blade ratio, walk and talk, hair pop and sharp, or tank like? Then you are a dork and a knife junkie.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Rolando Estocada. Love his work. Check him out on YouTube, Instagram, and his really bottomless insights into all these things that we love. Check it out. His Bowie collection is insane, and he's got some great collection videos you have to check out. All right, for Jim working his magic behind the switcher, I'm Bob DeMarco saying until next time, don't take dull for an answer.
Thanks for listening to the Knife Junkie podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review at reviewthepodcast.com. For show notes for today's episode, additional resources, and to listen to past episodes, visit our website, TheKnifeJunkie.com. You can also watch our latest videos on YouTube at TheKnifeJunkie.com/YouTube.